Well, happy Wednesday morning to you, everyone, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And we are going to close down, bring our study, examination of Dr. Dvid Hester's 23 affirmative arguments, which he offered in our formal public debate, July 14th and 15th, 2016, here in Ardmore, Oklahoma, at our Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. Dr. Hester gave 23 affirmative arguments in rapid machine gun style. In many instances, his arguments really cannot be classified as genuine affirmative arguments. And most of all, as we begin our summary and our conclusion here, what needs to be realized is a point that I have emphasized throughout these several videos examining his 23 arguments. Dr. Dvid Hester failed completely, totally, absolutely to do even one bit of exegesis of any single text. Dr. Dvid Hester got up and gave basically 23 hypothetical syllogisms. And that means he argued, if it is the case, and if it is the case, then the following must be true. It is the case that such and such is true, and it is the case that B is true, therefore it must be true that Preston is wrong. Now, the problem with that is this. Anytime you give a hypothetical syllogism, and you say, if A is true, and if B is true, then C must be true, and then you turn around and you say, A is true, and B is true, guess what, folks? You have to prove that A and B are true. That is the burden of the affirmative. So when Dr. Hester got up and says, for instance, to reformulate one of his arguments, if it is the case that the resurrection is on the last day of time, then it must be true that Preston is wrong. It is true that the resurrection is on the last day of time, therefore Preston is wrong. But folks, that does not prove there is a physical resurrection, and it does not prove there is an end of time. It asserts it, it affirms it, but it doesn't prove it. So here in the summary of our examination of Dr. Dvid Hester's 23 arguments, what you must grasp, and by the way, it's absolutely great that as I hear from so many of you who have been going back and you've been carefully watching the video of the debate, and you're going through these responses to his affirmative arguments. Many have said to me, well, I didn't even realize that's what Dvid Hester was doing. That's all in the world he was doing. He just claimed it was true, but never proved one single thing. And by the way, thank you so much for so many of you who have contacted me expressing appreciation for these responses to Dr. Dvid Hester, expressing that they've been extremely helpful to you in examining both sides of this issue. So, what I want you to realize, as you go back and you look at Dr. Dvid Hester, and you see him affirm in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 that Paul was talking about the raising of a physical body. He didn't prove it. When you go back and you hear Dr. Dvid Hester say, well, the judgment could not have been in AD 70 because Jesus said the judgment of Tyre and Sidon was going to be in AD 70. The judgment of Tyre and Sidon was not in AD 70, therefore Preston is wrong. See, you've got to see that Dr. Dvid Hester did not prove any of these. He simply said, nothing like that happened. Well, how does he know? Oh, he tells us he knows it didn't happen because he did not see it happen. And yet, Jesus said that all of the blood of all of the righteous, all the way back to creation, would be judged in that generation. And he said that Tyre and Sidon, those of Chorazin and Bethsaida, would rise up with that generation in judgment. Hello? So you see, once again, and we could go back through every single one of his arguments and make this point. He did absolutely no exegesis. And folks, when all a man can do is stand up and say, I'm right and Preston is wrong, he has not proven one single thing. In our next and last installment, I'm going to summarize the fatal admissions, the fatal statements, the dramatic and drastic changes that Dr. Dvid Hester made in our debate that demonstrate beyond any shadow of a doubt that covenant eschatology is true and that Dr. Dvid Hester is wrong. Now, Dr. Dvid Hester has agreed to have another debate. I am eagerly waiting right now for confirmation of the dates to see if it will really take place. In the meantime, we'll see you on the flip side.